National Coming Out Day is October 11th, 2021. This is the 34th anniversary of the National March on Washington for gay and lesbian rights. 500,000 people gathered on the Mall in Washington, D.C. The march provided visibility, an opportunity for people to come out of the shadows instead of hiding in shame. People marched in America's most public place. In the 80s, I played folk music, and I had moved to Chicago, and I wanted to start playing at some open mics. And it just happened that in the neighborhood that I lived in on the north side of Chicago, the open mics all seemed to be, or most of them seemed to be, in gay and lesbian bars. And my favorite was a place called His and Hers. This bar was run by Marge Summit, a tough lesbian freedom fighter. It was 1983. It was the height of the AIDS panic. And so politicians and store owners were starting to refuse to serve or even talk to people who might be too flamboyant or too open. So Marge came up with an idea. She took a rubber stamp, had the word gay and then the dollar sign on it. And she started stamping gay dollar on every dollar that went past her bar. And then other bar owners and other people got these stamps, and soon Chicago was flooded with all these things that said gay dollars. Now this was the days when people thought they could get AIDS by looking at it on TV. And so, you pull out, you get change from a store and it all says gay dollar. People were like, and this caused this panic and this understanding that, oh my goodness, these people are here and here in great number, and they're spending money. And so that helped make things get a little bit better. His and Hers was located under the L track by Wrigley Field. It's no longer exists because they expanded the L station, but it was right under the track, and you could hear. It's probably why it was an affordable place to buy and set up a bar. And it welcomed gays, lesbians, and straights. Back then, we were still doubting whether bisexuals existed. The community was under such siege that it was like, pick a team. Don't spy for either side. And even the word lesbian wasn't really used all that much. It hadn't come as popular. And so gay was just the one word, gay or straight. But for its day, it was the most welcoming place in Chicago. And Jeff Jones, a straight musician, came to the open mic one night just for the same reasons I did. It was a place to play music. But he kind of was filled with apprehension, going, uh-oh, what have I stepped into? I was 23 and cute, and I thought people were buying me drinks because they loved my music. Yeah. But Jeff wrote a song called A Song for His and Hers, or If You've Got Nothing to Lose. And it was, when you've nothing to hide, you've got nothing to lose. You can do anything and be anything you choose. Don't let society give you the blues. When you've nothing to hide, you've got nothing to lose. And I never met Jeff. By the time I arrived on the scene, Margot Kimball, an African-American lesbian folk singer, kind of owned that song, and she sang it, and she was 22. And this song kind of gave her strength to come out to her family, which then resulted in her twin brother rejecting her. And so you think of how close twins are, just how devastating that was. Now we had a friend, Sleepy Silver, who was a satirical songwriter, who was kind of a cynical curmudgeon. My poet friend called him a benign rhinoceros who just kind of sat at the back of the bar. And he always had a kind of twisted way of looking at things. And he wrote a response to that song saying, "Well, I've got lots to hide, and I've got lots to lose. Don't you dare tell me how to be who I am. At least give me the dignity of the damned." And I offer these contrasting views because despite the optimism of the song for his and hers, we should never forget how hard it is for people to come out. Even these days, that if we've been in the fight for 40 years, you say, well, that's an old thing. But when you're 17 and you know your parents are going to kick you out of the house, it's very real. It's very now. Now it's just more complex. Then it was homo or hetero with nothing in between. A true binary system. Now the gender binary itself is questioned. Gay, lesbian, bisexual, trans, queer, questioning, gender fluid, intersex, pansexual, asexual, aromantic. These options are endless and are still being defined. Kids these days have to define terms before they decide what the heck they're going to tell their parents of who they are. This congregation studied this a few years back through a curriculum of what the Unitarian Universalists call a welcoming congregation. And through study and some changes to who we thought we were and how we would act, we eventually came to the conclusion to have a rainbow flag over our door. And, when I came here, I thought, well, that's kind of what UU churches do. And now I've lived in this town for about over 3 years, and I realized, oh my goodness, that's the only public gay flag I see in New Bern. You just don't see them anywhere. There's not flying from bars or anything. And so the gay community in this county is really kind of hidden. And so that means more because of the absence of other welcoming places that are obvious in this town. In this sanctuary, it is safe for people to be out. But we must allow people to be out at their own pace. Someone may only be out here or other safe spaces. They may not be out at work because it would be still legal to fire them. They may not be out to their family. So if someone comes into this space and tells you their story, make sure their story is safe with you. And remember, it is theirs to tell and not yours. Now, being a white, cisgendered, heterosexual male, I've not had to come out of any closet. The closest I ever had was introducing Gail to my family. And so when I moved in with her and her 2 children, I called my siblings with my new address and informed them that a woman might be answering the phone. And my sisters were very matter-of-fact about it. But my brother's response surprised me. He said, thank you. Oh my goodness, I moved in with a lady and her kids 2 months ago, and I haven't called Mickey and Susie to tell them that I'm living with someone because I didn't know how they'd react. And you just topped me by moving in with a black woman. You've made it so much easier. Most people who have come out to me in my life have come out over dinner, and they've been pretty much non-events. I generally have been the safe friend, a safe audience for them to practice their coming out speech. But the easiest coming out story I have ever heard was from my college roommate. After he came out to me, I said, "Do your parents know?" And he goes, "Oh, yeah." I said, "Well, how did that go?" And his father and him work on restoring Packards and other antique cars. And they have about 40 cars in between them, and they still do this. And he was in high school or first year in college, and they are restoring an old Packard, and they're under the hood. And my friend's father said, "Do you think you ever will get married?" And he said, "No." And his father, without looking up, said, "I'll talk to your mother." But one of the worst coming out stories was a woman who was out to our congregation, but was still not out to her family, even in her 50s. And an old family friend from out of town, who actually was more friends with her parents because it was her parents' age rather than her age, but was a UU on a national scale, and she was doing work all over the country, and occasionally came back to her hometown to visit and talk to this lady's parents, and just kind of made an offhand comment about her and her partner. And it shocked her parents. And her parents disinherited her, fired the partner who had been working for the company for 20 years. And now this partner and their daughter had been living together for 10 years, but they just assumed, well, they're good people, so they must just be old maids, and didn't realize that they had a relationship. And it's amazing to me how blind people can be when they say they don't know any gay or lesbian people. I had two friends from seminary. One was a Presbyterian minister, and the other worked on the north side of Chicago on night ministry, which pretty much was an outreach to runaway teens and gay youth. So they really didn't hide who they were. They lived together. He would come to church with his friend, and it was just an old kind of Presbyterian church on the north side of Chicago that, had kind of shrunken, and most of the families had moved away. And all these nice, sweet old ladies would be saying, "Oh, well, we just know the perfect person for each of you. We can set you up with our daughters and granddaughters. You are such nice young men." And it was like, and all they did was just not say, "Oh, by the way, we're a couple." And they just assumed that they were quote unquote normal. And because I think the word gay, it comes to mean bad before people even understand what it means as a sexual term. And I got evidence of this when my son, who was raised a UU, came home from first grade, and he said, "Well, Billy told Vivette, 'You like that girl? That's so gay.' And so, Dad, I had to say, 'Well, actually, that's actually not gay.'" And I'm like, "Oh, great. My son is explaining to the first grade what gay is." But because the kids in his class knew that gay meant bad before they knew that gay meant anything else. And so that the strength of a prejudice is just incredible. Now, the Human Rights Campaign suggests if someone comes out to you, ask, "What can I do to support you?" And if it surprises you and you feel awkward, it's okay to admit that. Say, "Whoa, I never thought of that. Well, I'll adjust. Let's figure this out." Admit that you will occasionally say the wrong thing. and that you are willing to learn the most respectful language. Be reassuring. Tell them that this does not change how you feel about them. I think what Carol said earlier, that the only difference between the person that she knew who came out to her was one word. He was still the same person that had become her friend. Affirm whatever connection you have had with them before they came out. And there's ways to be supportive when your gay friends are not around. Defend LGBT plus rights whenever the topic comes up in conversation. And when you hear a joke that's disparaging, say, I don't find that joke funny. And also, this coming holiday season, talk loudly at the Thanksgiving table. So your nieces and nephews who are at the kids' table in the next room know that you are the cool aunt or uncle that they can talk to if they need to. Before people come out to others, they need to come out to themselves. And this is most critical. The stigma that society puts on any deviation from heterosexuality is such that people cannot admit it to themselves. There is a phrase that arose among AIDS activists back in the day: silence equals death. And this is true. I've witnessed it as an AIDS case manager. I had clients who only had sex when they were drunk, who didn't want to come to a group meeting because they might meet somebody that they met anonymously and wouldn't want to come to the office for a group meeting about case management. And I wondered how I, as a case manager, was supposed to convince these people to wear a condom when they weren't even convinced that they were gay. They were only gay when they were so drunk that they didn't remember. And I took one man's sexual history. He was a singer in a gospel choir, which we had about 5 clients in this gospel choir. And as I'm taking his history, he said, quote, I have had sex with women and other people. And so, as the AIDS case manager, I'm probably the safest person that this person could talk to, but could not talk to me because I don't think he had had the conversation with himself. Sexuality is a beautiful part of each individual. And when shared openly and with consent, it can enhance intimacy. But when it becomes furtive, hidden, and sneaky, it degenerates the relationship. It poisons it and makes it dirty. Living in the open is easier and less stressful in the long run, but not all results will be positive. A person coming out must weigh the risk and benefits of every situation. Tell people on a need-to-know basis. They should seek out support in a community such as ours, in a therapist or a minister. And I've noticed in the Craven County that the gay community is almost invisible. And so I searched the internet, and this is what I found. I looked for an organization called Parents and Friends of Lesbians and Gays, also known as PFLAG. And they've been around for about 50 years, started by a mother whose son came out as gay, and she didn't know who to talk to, so she started a support group and started, put an ad in the paper, and they just started saying, how do we figure this out? And now it was the first, and now it's the largest organization for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer people, their parents and families and allies, with over 400 chapters and 200,000 members and supporters, crossing multiple generations of families in major urban centers, small cities, and rural areas across America. So I looked to see where the closest chapter was, and there's a chapter in Greenville, and the next closest is in Wilmington. To start a chapter here, all we would need is a few dedicated members and an introduction of how to start such a group. It can be found online. And looking online, I found a Facebook page called ENC Pride, East North Carolina Pride or Eastern North Carolina Pride. And my goodness, they have an address here in New Bern, but it appears to be a place where you can have a P.O. box. And when I called on the phone, I said, "Hello, is this ENC Pride?" And there was a long pause as the person tried to figure out who this was, calling them on their private cell phone, and said, yeah, that's us. And I talked, and I might get to meet some of these people in the next few weeks and see what our congregation might do and working with them, and but it had very much the feeling when you're on the phone that I had called a secret society that was wondering, a minister is calling? What's up with that? And I have been part of congregations that have held GLBTQ proms, and so kids could have a safe place to have this high school rituals, and even they have held events for adults saying the prom you never got to go to, so that we might have a Valentine's dance or something, that says, oh, this is a safe place to be. And we have to make these decisions because we don't know how safe this community is. And so it's to negotiate, how do we do more than just have a flag above our door, and how do we continue to provide a safe space for people? And it's a lot of questions, and we'll make some good decisions and some bad decisions, and we'll learn some things, and we'll evolve. But hopefully this is one of the ways that our congregation can grow. If 100 people know we're a gay and welcoming place, maybe 2 or 3 people will join us out of that 100. It's about providing a service, about being more open to the community about who we are, to let people know that this is a safe place. And if people come and for some reason it isn't a safe place, that we'll have to hold each other accountable because we want to be a safe place. So that's the challenge that is ahead of us. And I thank you for listening. May we bless and be blessed.